Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Noble Father Podcast. I am your host, Theophilus, and if you're joining us for the very first time, this is a podcast of passion. This is a podcast in which I speak about my life, the observations I'm making through fatherhood, in my faith walk, in my journey as an entrepreneur, in my journey as a married man, all different kind of applications and experiences, and just really speaking into their ways. I really feel genuinely that any person can learn from the next person. A fool can learn from a wise person. A wise person can learn from a fool. And if you're joining us for the first time, this podcast also has a membership involved. There is a fathers group that I am a part of that I run, and we do regular meetups on Thursdays. Right now on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and really it's just a space for fathers to open up about their struggles in life, and to be held in a space that's honest and it's safe and it's confidential. And if you're a father listening to this, this is that is really how we created this space. Is knowing how difficult it is to be a father in today's day and age, to man, find a space to be able to open up. Not a lot of people have good friends locally that they can turn to, and I previously didn't know that this was possible online, and once we started doing it, started to create this vision, it came through. Fathers were sharing deeply, and now I have a bunch of fathers who are coming to Vancouver to do our second annual retreat. Retreats is also something that we are doing as well, is to gather in person and to go deeper, to get to know one another on a better at a deeper level. And so if you're into that, looking for friends and brothers who are understanding of your walk, no matter what it is you're going through, one of the most amazing things about this community is that it doesn't matter where you're from. You can be from Australia, from New Zealand, from Trinidad, from South America, from North America, from Europe. All the struggles that fathers go through is exactly the same. And so, yeah, if you're listening to this, I am considering moving away from the audio platform potentially. I'm still debating. So just stay tuned for that. I'm gonna be posting these back onto the audio platform for the time being, and right now currently podcasts are kind of taking this little bit of a backseat, and people are platforms are turning off certain functionalities and removing certain hosting, and so there's going to be changes, ahead for the podcast. Interesting on this trip. Well, I just got back from a long road trip, a pretty extended one, and it was a good trip. It was an amazing trip. Getting to be away, getting to disconnect, and to detach from the regular schedule of programming, right? Get away from routine a little bit. The kids obviously at the start were super excited, and then tail end of it were kind of like in tears, wanting to come home. But this journey has been one of growth, right? A ton of growth, and leading into relationship with my heavenly Father, and I am a Christian myself, and this isn't a Christian podcast, and my membership is not a Christian membership either. That faith walk is my own walk, and it was a marvelous trip. Got me thinking a lot on things. Helped me to appreciate the life that I get to live, right? And for today's episode, I really want to talk about something that has been really heavy on my heart. And it's one in which, if you are outside looking in, and what do I mean? What do I mean by outside looking in? If you don't have any kind of background in faith, or have a relationship with God, or with Jesus, you would take my episode as one in which I am being very judgmental. And I always say, and if this is your first time hearing it, and you continue to listen to this podcast, you're going to hear me say this again and again, is that I am the least qualified person to be talking to you about um, anything. I am not the perfect person. I am not the litmus test. I am not the cookie cutter father. I have my imperfections. I am just as bad as the next guy. I'm ultimately a sinner, just like you. Regardless of what I believe, I am a broken individual. Without Jesus, without God in my life, I am a broken person. And so it might come off as judgmental when you hear it from the outside in, but know that this judgment is from a place of love, because, actions have consequences. Consequences are not just temporary. Consequences are generational. And this work that I'm doing through Noble Father is one in which I feel strongly about, very passionate about, and very, I don't take it for granted. Um, it is the members in my community, and even those that don't pay. Like, I'm not doing this for money. Like, this isn't a get rich thing for me. I'm doing this because of the impact. I'm doing this because of what it means. I mean, golly, like, I need this space as well. I need those Thursday spaces as well. Like, I need a safe space to grow as a human being. I need brotherhood. I need friendship. I need community. I need fellowship. And to know, even just to know that I'm not alone in my own problems. Also, to get a outsider's perspective, a third person, fourth person perspective on the things that I'm encountering, to get words of affirmation or advice, or even just to know that, hey, the direction you're heading right now is, is going towards a trap. You are walking into impending doom or impending danger, and you need to be careful not to continue on this step. That is all this community is all about. Hey, brother, I noticed that you're drinking a lot of alcohol. Or, hey, brother, I noticed you're drinking a lot of sugary drinks. I don't want you to go down that rabbit hole. Or you are finding yourself in a tricky place at work and you're not able to be at home and find that time balance. Like, if a good friend, an earnest friend, would be honest, regardless of how it makes them feel, be honest with them about the direction of their life. And that's what this community is all about. And that's what this next this podcast is going to be about. And this morning, as I go into my quiet time, even before that, this morning, one of my brothers reached out to me, and brothers as in friends. He's a God brother. Let's just say he is a God brother. And, if there's anybody in the world that understands everything that I'm going through as a missionary's kid, as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a married man, as the oldest male Chinese in his family, it's him. Reached out, had a conversation, and it was funny because, he's like, I really need that conversation, but in reality, I needed it. Because the things that he talks about and the struggles he's going through, I'm ultimately going through them as well. This walk of faith is one in which everybody can relate to. And so, after we got off the call, and ultimately we were talking about, Peter walking on water towards Jesus as the storm is raging, and, it's a crazy picture, right? Because that's the first time, that's the second time. He's the second human person to walk on water, aside from Jesus himself. And so, that's a crazy picture. That's a wild picture. Yeah, if you don't believe what I believe, you might think that that's a crazy story to believe. I believe the Bible to be true, and it is a book of eyewitness accounts, over spanning hundreds of years, all saying the same thing, pointing to the same thing. 300 plus prophecies of a man to come, and that was Jesus. And he came and he fulfilled all 300 plus prophecies. These are all prophecies that are written over hundreds of years before his arrival. And he came and he fulfilled them all. And it wasn't like he lived a long life here on earth. He lived, what, like 33 years? 30 plus years? He didn't hit 40. He came and fulfilled 300 plus prophecies that were mentioned in the Bible at one point in time. People that were given spiritual revelation about his life. And obviously the pinnacle of it all is that he died and rose again. And it's not just one person saying that. This is multiple accounts of people saying that. And so, circling back, take my quiet time and, I'm going through Matthew and I'm going through Luke and reading, and came across this thing. Actually came across I circled back to a post that was written by one of my dads in my community, and I want to read it to you here because it reminded me of something else in the Bible, and that's really the origin of where this analogy came from. I know for a fact because Bible is timeless wisdom, knowledge, and it's beyond this physical world. There's no way. It's a supernatural book, and that's an understatement because this book applies to everybody, sharper than a double-edged sword, and then the Bible calls it the sword of the Spirit. And so this analogy goes like this. It says, you are holding a cup of coffee when someone comes along and bumps into you or shakes your arm, making you spill your coffee everywhere. Why did you spill the coffee? Because someone bumped into me. Wrong answer. You spilled the coffee because there was coffee in the cup. Had there been tea in the cup, you would have spilled tea. Whatever is inside the cup is what will spill out. Therefore, when life comes along and shakes you, which will happen, whatever is inside you will come out. It's easy to fake it until you get rattled. So we have to ask ourselves, what's in my cup? When life gets tough, what spills over? Joy, gratitude, peace, and humility? Anger, bitterness, victim mentality, and quitting tendencies? Life provides the cup. You choose how to fill it. Today, let's work towards filling our cups with gratitude, forgiveness, joy, words of affirmation, resilience, positivity, and kindness, gentleness, and love for others. If you're a Christian person who understands, Bible reading Christian, you sense where that's going. You know what that's ultimately talking about. Matthew and Luke both have a section or has a verse scripture that talks about this exactly. And the subheading of it is a tree and its fruit. And I'm going to read it. And this one's in Luke. Luke 6:43 says, "For no good tree bears bad fruit, nor again does a bad tree bear good fruit. For each tree is known by its fruit. For figs are not gathered from thorn bushes, nor are grapes picked from a bramble bush. The good person out of the good treasure of his heart produces good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure produces evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaks." And in Matthew 13, I believe is the one. Where is this? I should have saved it. Okay, Matthew 12:33. And it says, "A tree is known by its fruit. Either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad, for the tree is known by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. The good person out of his good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure brings forth evil. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." Now, why is this relevant? And why is this coming up? On this trip, I did a lot of people watching. And I live in BC. BC is one of the more conservative, one of the more, no, excuse me, one of the more liberal provinces. And if you're American listening to this, the more democratic, more democrat-ish province. And so, the values are loose and very, we're very experimental and believe very liberal ways, and the road trip took us to Alberta, which is probably the most conservative province in all of Canada. Yeah, and I got to watch people, and I watch people everywhere I go. Right, as a dad through life, going through a play place with my kids, an indoor trampoline park, a wave pool, at the leisure center, even just day to day life, watching people and how and the leaves and the lives they lead. And maybe this is the judgmental part is looking at the fruits of their life, right? This can't be avoided. I encourage you, if you've and maybe you've never been or you have been, right, is to just people watch at places like Disney World or Disneyland, or even at the grocery store, right? Or just in passing. Maybe do that this week, is to just people watch and watch and look at and ask yourself, what are the fruits of their lives? Like, how can you make, yes, you don't know the whole picture, but you can see the fruits of their life, right? Immediately. So, one of the first things that comes to mind, and this is going to be judgmental, and honestly, like, if this offends somebody, and because I say it this way, like, too bad. Like, this is their fruit. And so I'm just looking at their fruits, right? We all have them, right? You could say that about my bald head, right? You can judge and say, well, he probably didn't take care of himself mentally, didn't, got too stressed and started to lose his hair. That's a wise assumption. That's a good, and you'd be right, right? You'd be right. I didn't take care of myself at one point and was not taking care of myself, right? So you could say the same about somebody who's obese, right? Somebody who is morbidly obese, sits in a wheelchair and moves around, puttering around on that thing, right? Yeah, you can't say that, oh, it's because of their habits fully, right? You can't, like, how do you say that? You can't, what do I'm just saying this. You can't make a complete judgment of the person based on those fruits, right? But there are components to it. Would you say that this person exercises a lot? Probably not. Would it be wise to say that this person doesn't eat healthy? Probably not. Does this person, yeah, even mentally, right? Does this person have good self-control? Probably not, right? Like, is this person mentally strong, you think? Probably not, right? And then you see their interaction with their children, right? And their children are also starting to stack on the weight. They're starting to get out of shape, right? And so, right, what's the saying? The common saying in the secular world is the tree, the fruit never falls far from the tree. So even racism, right? Even racism, it's a taught thing. It is a learned thing from children. The kids pick it up, right? So if you have this belief, your kids will pick it up, right? Immediately, they'll see it. And so, what is the fruits? Like, what are the fruits? And I can give you the fruits of the Spirit, right? These are things that are given by the Bible. Galatians 5, all right? Galatians 5. I'm gonna find that here because I think it's the word is. You could not, you might not be a believer yourself, but you can listen to these things and think, This is great. This is applicable knowledge. There is beauty in the words, and there's truth in this word. Um, and the wisdom that you find on the reels that you see on Instagram, what have you, is all tied here. It's all in here. Um, like people can't reinvent something that's already been done and been said. And so, in Galatians 5, and I want to read the whole passage to you because it's important to get the whole context. You can't just nitpick and choose what you want. And so this is in Galatians 5, and it starts in verse 16. And the subheading of this is keep in step with the Spirit. But I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the desires of the flesh are against the Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are against the flesh. For these are opposed to each other, to keep you from doing the things you want to do. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. I warn you, as I warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. And those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. If we live by the Spirit, let us also keep in step with the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking one another, envying one another. I mean, if you're looking for a recipe on how to live even a whole life, let's not even say a godly life, a whole life, you would steer away from the vices of our world, right? Vices like the things I was mentioned, right? What are these? Sexual immorality. Think about that. That's everything. That's pretty much everything, right? You go on Instagram, you see pictures of scantily clad, clothed women, right? Lusting over, beautiful women, right? Impurity, sensuality, right? Idolatry, right? Oh man, like these are big things, like jealousy, fits of anger, man. Things that I deal with too. Like driving. Driving is this thing that always causes me to like just get super frustrated and get so angry and I get so upset. And and Canada, you've heard me talk about it politically. Just like we're changing as a country to the point where I'm ashamed to call myself a Canadian, right? And that comes with so many things of like, oh, why we have so many outsiders coming into Canada who have no idea what it means to be a Canadian, and they come and they bring their culture and they don't assimilate and they don't contribute to society in any kind of meaningful Canadian way. Like that can come off as being very judgmental. That can come off as being very unchristlike. These are things that I deal with as well. Envy, right? As a business owner, it's very easy to just be like, Lord, why are these people finding more success than I am? They're doing things that are just so much worse and against you, and yet they are abundant. They are provided for beyond, they're finding more success than I am. Right? These are things that I deal with in the flesh as well. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And these are things that we don't see enough of in our world, right? Like, the Disneyland, morbidly obese guy sitting in his wheelchair yelling at his kid. Kid wants this, throws a tantrum, and, does the countdown and says, if you don't listen to me 5 seconds, we're going to get in the car and we're going to leave. Kid starts throwing a tantrum until number 2 gets counted. And then he's like, okay. And reluctantly, out of anger, doesn't want to do it, right? Kicks a cup that's on the ground or throws his drink in the wall or whatever it is, right? These are all the fruits. These are all the fruits. And when we live away from that, and the spirit, the spirit is something that we don't listen to, you know, enough. Right? We don't have a relationship with God, and thus, what are these values to us anyways? And we're literally getting to that point where, okay, then what is truth? Well, truth is my feelings. Well, I feel like being a carrot today, or I feel like being a VCR today. I feel like being a telephone booth. Like, it could be anything I want because I say I want to be that. It's not malleable, right? We always say that it's not malleable. We've gotten so far. We've just gotten so far from it, right? We've entertained all of these things, all these impure things of the flesh, right? And pushed against God, pushed against truth, pushed against what is inherently objective truth. It's true. And so, what do you do? So now that we know that the fruits of the Spirit are important, because if we don't exercise those things, well, what happens, right? Here's a good example. We had a tree that was growing literally right outside of this window right here, literally right where I'm pointing, and it was like a plum tree, and this plum tree was producing really, really bad fruit, to the point where the branches also, the tree was also just it was just unpleasant to look at. It was gross. It was starting to have these boils on it, and it became cancerous. The tree was cancerous, and it was insane, because every single summer we'd look at this tree, and this tree would fill with these nasty looking bugs, and it would just be like this magnet of disgusting growth. And so we eventually just had to cut it down. We got to cut it because we don't want to see it. It's unsightly. It also leaves unwanted undesirables in our garden, in our lawn. And so we had to remove it. Just had to get rid of it, right? And so, what happens? Like, what happens whenever we want to when we want to change the fruits that we have? Well, you got to change what's inside, right? We got to change what's in the heart. And the Bible is very clear about pruning, right? What does pruning do? Right? Pruning it is almost like a reinvestment. It is a cutting back and making it grow even stronger, right? A good example of this is in martial arts. You punch a wall enough times, your bone heals and it gets stronger because it calcifies and it gets stronger. The bones in your bones, the makeup of your bones gets stronger as they heal themselves. And so eventually, right, you'll keep punching that wall, and that wall will not be as hard as your fists, right? They do this in kickboxing. They kick with their shins hard on a tree, and it hurts, obviously, at the start. It's gonna bleed, but the fracturing of the bones and the recalcification of the bones makes it stronger. Pruning is the same thing. In John 15:2, it says, "Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit." And so you can see it. You'll see it everywhere, right? If you're a parent, look at your kids. How do your kids act? How do your kids live their lives? What is an example of them, right? Because what's true here is true at the grocery store. What's true here is true at Disneyland. What's true here is true at the elementary school, right? How you guide your children, how you lead them is how they are going to lead. Okay? Even if you aren't present in it, the life you live as a person, your kids are watching and they are learning. Remember, I am not the perfect person to tell you this. I am just as bad as you are. I have my faults as well. How I lead my family, my kids pick up on. My son in particular, will hear how I say a certain thing, and then he'll go and use it on his sister. Right? That same thing will come up in their lives. And so I just want to leave you with this. What are the fruits in your life? What are the fruits in your life? And what are your results right now? Right? And I want you to think about that, because not just you. If you want to think beyond that, think about the results of your children. This is generational. These are generational principles. These are things that can impact eternity. There's an eternal impact because it'll affect the generation to come, and then the generation after that. And it can continue to perpetuate. So if you're not living by the Spirit, the fruits of the Spirit, and you're involved in all these vices, all of these things, entertaining the desires of the flesh, consider the generational impact that has. Right? You don't deal with sexual addiction. You don't deal with substance abuse. You can see this already. Drive to your downtown and go and find those crackheads, those fentanyl heads, those meth heads, and the results in their life. Now, if I told you one of them had kids, what would you say about that? Generationally, what would you say about that? That's the fruit of their life. That's the fruit of their life. What are you doing about that? What are you doing about the fruits in your life? What are you doing about the vices that you have in your life? Right? Even as a Christian myself, I stumble. Right? I trip over things. I'm still a sinner. Right? But there's a difference. There's a difference. There's a difference from where's the heart at? The heart. What's in there? What's in your cup? What's in your cup? I know my cup is dirty, and I actively go to seek and clean it, fix it, seek God's help on it, right? There's a difference if you willfully, blindly tell yourself the cup is good, the things inside are good. Oh, I can be whatever I want to be. That's good, right? My feelings are good. No, you must test it. You must test it, all right? Because these are internal things. This is something that I don't want you to overlook. At the very least, do it well and show your kids how to do it. Right? Test it. Test it. That's all I really wanted to say. And, hopefully I haven't lost you yet. And it's just good to be back in the regular scheme of things, recording on a computer again. It was stressful to record it on a phone. But I'm glad that you're here with me now. Thank you for joining me on this podcast. If you're interested in our community, you can come check us out on www.knowable-father.com, and you can see what our community is all about. For $25 USD a month, like that is for the value that we're bringing. We are underselling ourselves. We're undercutting ourselves, and there's so much value in there. And I've seen dads walk away with better fruits. Like, it's amazing, right? Like, you show up, you do the work, you lean in, you open up about the vices and the things that you have going on, and the fruits in your life start to change, right? And then it starts to grow, and it starts to multiply, and it starts to rub off on your spouse, and then it rubs off on your children, and it rubs off on your friends. Like, it is undeniable, your fruits. And I will boast, right, is that by being real and truthful with myself about my own vices and my own fruits, always watching my own fruits and asking God, how can I do better in my life? I see the fruits of my children. I see how they interact with other kids. I see how kids interact with my kids. And I see how broken the world is. I see how broken those kids are. And I always look at their parents and I think, it's no wonder. It's no wonder. And so this is how we heal the world, right? Truthfully with yourself. Ask yourself, what can I do to change this? Is this me? What are my fruits? I hope this guides you today in walking in a better direction as a father as a mother, as a friend. In whatever way, I hope it guides you. Um, so yeah, summer is still going, and uh, you know, don't forget, right, that we're not promised tomorrow. We're not we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And so today, go and enjoy your life. Enjoy the blessings that you have, right? Count them. And my friend Ruben likes to say, count your blessings. Count your blessings, because we are blessed beyond measure. Um, and it's merely a perspective thing, right? You look hard enough, you will find it, right? But if you're feeling all the things that are not going well and you think that things can be so much better and always wanting, right? That's envy right there, right? Always seeking more, you'll never find it. So remember, stay present, and be noble. Thank you.